Hi, my name is Robert Chelle with Chelle Law, and my firm assists physicians with employment contract issues. One thing I'd like to cover today is recruitment agreements, and then more specifically, what is a stark service area, kind of what the definition of that is for recruitment agreements. And so the physician can kind of have a better idea of what are the repercussions of signing a recruitment agreement and then whether they're eligible to sign one as well. So first, most recruitment agreements I find are for newer physicians. Either they're just coming out of training or have been out for a year. And then kind of the basis of the recruitment agreement and the exception, which allows a hospital to supplement either the medical practice with money to bring in the physician. And I'll just read kind of what those are. So there has to be a documented need in the area for the physician specialty. It must be in writing. The physician has to relocate their medical practice to the area. And then what is the area itself? So it has to be the geographic region that the hospital serves. And in this case, it should be the lowest number of contiguous zip codes from which the hospital draws at least 75% of its patients. So what that means is in the recruitment agreement, there will be an attachment. And on that attachment, it will just have a bunch of zip codes. And so depending upon where it's at, it could be 40 different zip codes. And in some bigger cities, it could just be a couple. And so what those zip codes mean is the physician has to relocate their practice to, within those zip codes, and then they have to provide care to people within those zip codes. And then that is kind of grants the exception of how a hospital can then supplement the medical practice that the physician is joining. So how do they supplement? Well, it could be through, it's normally through like an income guarantee. So the hospital will guarantee that the physician will receive a certain amount each month. They can provide reimbursement for overhead expenses, signing bonus, relocation expenses, student loan assistance. There's a number of ways that they can supplement a medical practice. But the service area itself, obviously the medical practice itself has to be within those zip codes. And then I guess the main thing to take into account is if the physician decides to leave the medical practice, then they can continue to stay within that stark service area and not have to pay anything back to the hospital. So kind of how the recruitment agreement works is they will provide a certain amount of money in generally the first year, the income guarantee period. And then as long as the physician stays within that service area for a number of years, it's either 3 or 4 years, it's kind of called the forgiveness period. As long as the physician stays within that community for that period of time, the amount that the hospital paid out in year one will then be forgiven. Usually it's a monthly fraction. So if it's a 3-year forgiveness period, then the physician's loan is 1/36 of that would be forgiven per month. So if the relationship goes sour with the employer, as long as the physician stays within that area, within those contiguous zip codes, that serves 75% of the patients. Now, there are 2 exceptions I should throw in there real quick. There are some exceptions for rural communities and then also residents who have been already training within the area where this may not necessarily apply. They don't have to move into the area, but I'm not going to get into that right now. So if the physician wants to end the agreement, they stay within the service area, they don't have to pay anything back. So there needs to be an analysis of a couple of things before a physician signs a recruitment agreement and an employment agreement simultaneously. One, there shouldn't be a non-compete in the employment agreement. Most recruitment agreements will list that there can't be a non-compete between the employer and the physician. If there is a non-compete, let's just say it's a broad non-compete, 30 miles from the primary practice location, and all of the zip codes are, obviously well within 30 miles of the hospital, well, then the physician will will have no opportunity to stay within the area. They'll be forced out, and then they may be on the hook for having to pay back the amount that's still left on the loan. So first, the physician needs to make certain there's no non-compete, or maybe like a very reasonable and small non-compete where they'd have other opportunities. Another analysis that needs to be done is are there other opportunities in that area if the physician were to leave? Sometimes in smaller communities, in certain specialties, there's only one practice that does that. So if a physician wants to stay in that service area, is there another practice to go to? Do they have alternatives? I mean, the worst possible thing that can happen to a physician is something happens with the original employer. They simply don't have an opportunity to get a job within the service area, and then they owe hundreds of thousands of dollars to the hospital. There should be some kind of joint and several liability between the medical practice and the physician, but that's another thing that should be looked at as well. So hopefully that's a good analysis of what the Stark service area is for a recruitment agreement. These are pretty tricky. If the recruitment agreement is the sole reason why a job is available, then certainly it's a good opportunity for a physician. But these do not always end well, and they present some real challenges if the relationship goes south with the employer. So you need to be careful. If you have any questions about recruitment agreements, you can call my firm at the number listed below in the description, or you can always reach us through our website, chellelaw.com. That's CHELLE law.com. Anyway, appreciate you watching the video. Hopefully that was helpful, and take care.